Perfect. All right. I see the participants are joining in. We're live on YouTube as well right now. So I think we're ready to start. Yeah, welcome everybody to the new webinar of Facilicom Baars. The webinar, which is called The Data-Driven Digital Journey of Facilicom Group, presented by Pieter Zeesvaat and Michel Steenhuis. In between, questions are possible. Questions are you can ask questions in the chat box as well as on YouTube, and we'll just jump in if any questions pop up. So yeah, to start, I would like to give the word to Pieter, and enjoy.
Thank you, Olivier. Welcome everybody to this data-driven webinar. Before we dive into our journey of Facilicom, and I do that together with my colleague Michel Steenhuis, I think it's I would take the opportunity to introduce Facilicom to you, because not everybody knows Facilicom. It's a pretty big company in Holland, almost 30,000 employees. But before I talk about Facilicom, let me introduce Facilicom via a small movie. So I switch over to a small movie which will introduce Facilicom, and then I will talk a little bit more about what we do, what kind of brands we have, and what kind of challenges we have as a company, especially on the data-driven journey that we do. And I will elaborate on this topic together with Michel. He will give some examples about what we have done to become more data-driven, what kind of things we have developed in our company in terms of techniques, but also examples of use cases. So that will be, in brief, the story that we're gonna tell you today. Before I start the movie, I think it's good to say that it would be very interesting that if you have any questions, please raise your hand and give your questions or pose your question to us. I think the webinar is more valuable if we ask questions, if we have questions, if Michel and myself get some questions for you, that we can elaborate on that topic that you have to make it more interactive, this session, because otherwise it's our story, and we can trust me, we can talk hours about these topics. That's no problem at all. But I think it's more interactive and more interesting for you if you have any questions, that you just pose them, and you have, of course, all the possibilities in the techniques that we have in Zoom, that you can ask us questions. Olivier will guide us through the questions. So once in a while we'll stop and we will discuss a question. There might be the possibility that we don't know the answer, then we will just say that. And let's be honest, we don't know everything, of course. We're just human beings on a very beautiful digital journey. But okay, let's start, and let's first share a little bit of a movie that can introduce Facilicom to you, and then I will pick it up and talk some more about our brands that we have, because it's not only the Facilicom brand that we have, but also some more labels, and then I will dive into the journey, the digitalization journey that we are going through right now. So let me first share my screen and dive into the movie of Facilicom.
You may not see us, but we are always there. We are the people that welcome you in the mornings and make sure to spot us when you leave. We give you energy, are a listening ear, and keep an eye on everything. We ensure that the Netherlands are cleaner, safer, and more friendly, because we know that when you do good, the favor will be returned. We are Facilicom Group. We work for others and with you.
So that was a short introduction. Maybe some more words on that. As you saw, we have some more labels, or a couple of different labels in our company. You probably know us from our cleaning department, which is called GOM, with a couple of thousand people working in that area. We have our safety department, which listens to the name of Trigio. We have our healthcare and well-being department, which listens to the name of Inclusio. We have construction, installation, and facility management by the name of Facilicom Solutions. And for example, what we do there is we build buildings. For example, the building you see in our background, Michel and myself, that's our company building, which was built in cooperation with Facilicom Solutions. And last but not least, we got a new kid on the block, which is a very recent organized and new started business part of our organization, which listens to the name Food and I, and that has to do with eating and drinking, so food and beverage, which is pretty new, and probably we can elaborate a little bit more on that a little bit later, which is absolutely data driven. So that's a little bit of our company. We have about 30,000 people, employees working for us, so that's a lot. We are a family-owned company, so we're not listed to any stock exchange, but we are a family-owned business. We don't have any loans. I'm always proud to say that. So we don't have connection with banks because we have our own capital in the organization, which gives us the freedom to move and to decide what we want ourselves. And furthermore, I think it's very interesting to tell you that we have a lot of different cultures in our company. So we have people from all over the world. We got 96 nationalities working for our company. And I must say, we not only work in the Netherlands, we also work in Belgium, and we also work in London and Ireland. So that's a little bit of some story about our company. We were founded in 1966, so we are already here for a couple of years. And the nice thing with a family-owned company is that they always go for the longer-term goals. So we are not in the short-term stock rhythm, but we're more in the terms of longer-term, which is very nice. Myself, I am the CIO of the company, and I joined the company last year, the 1st of January. And I joined the team, and together with my team, we raised a plan. We created a journey that we want to share today with you. And in order to do that well, I want to show you a comic that we designed with the team. And why a comic? You would probably ask, because you would probably expect a PowerPoint presentation of myself. Well, Michel is gonna elaborate a little bit more with PowerPoint, but I will show you a comic, a drawing that we made to make our digital journey accessible for the whole company. Because whenever I speak to audiences about IT, one of my main topics, one of my main drivers is make sure that you talk a simple IT language. Let's not go into very difficult IT words or buzzwords or whatever you want to call it, but try to be, and that's not always easy. And myself, I'm also guilty of sometimes using difficult words. But I think one of my shout outs, my call to actions to my colleagues, for example, CIOs, whom I talk to a lot, is make sure that we express ourselves in simple business language, because we always say that we have to gap the bridge between business and IT, but I would say there should not be any bridge between business and IT. We just work together in multidisciplinary teams and make sure that we talk everyday business language. So now I'm going to share my screen again with you. And Olivier, if you have some questions already, please dive in.
Yes, I will. I already got a first question, actually. The question is, could you explain why Facilicom wanted to go digital anyways on first hand?
Yes, well, that's a very good question. And that's the reason why I put on the comic, the drawing that I'm just putting in. Facilicom, what I said, is a company that was founded in 1966. And what we call, we are well, a very practical company. We don't lean a lot on theories. We just do the work. We are very operational, and we are a very practical organization. So when the time is emerging, we said to each other, okay, we want to learn some more about our company. We don't only want to do our jobs every day, but you also want to know a little bit more how we do our jobs, how successful are we in our jobs. And that's not only the thing that we wanted ourselves or that we want ourselves, that's also a demand from our customers and our suppliers. They want to have an insight in our company. What kind of professional services are you providing to us? What kind of certificates have the people who are the safety keepers of our companies, or the cleaners, or the people who do healthcare? What kind of educations do they have? What kind of certificates do they have? How is their performance? What kind of hours do they make, etc., etc. So they want to know something more about our work than only the cleaning, keeping it safe, or building, or providing food and beverage. So that's one of the things. And also our customers said, because I just said, for example, you see on the left side, you see our food and beverage, the left upper corner, you see food and beverage. For example, what we do is we have apps that we use, that people that come into the office in the morning can use that app and say, okay, I am in the office, providing that we are going back to the office somewhere in time. I think we will go back to the office somewhere in time. But if people are back in the office, they will enter the office. They can open the food and beverage, the Food and I app, and say, okay, this is what I want to eat today. And that app uses data, because that app knows that I'm a male, for example, I'm 53 years old, I have 2 daughters, and my main favorite things to eat are, for example, cheese and bread and salad, and I always like to drink a smoothie. So what the app will do, and the data behind the app, what we will do is we will, of course, record that and make use of that data. So the next day I will come to the office, the app will suggest to me, okay, you're a male, and the app will, of course, not repeat that, but know that I'm a male, 50 years old, that I'm a sporty type, that I like to do kinds of things. They would suggest, okay, we would suggest today we have a very nice salad with walnuts and all kinds of other nice things. Would you like that? And you can just tick the box and pick it up at noontime. So that's one of the insights why we're going to use data more and more. And you see in my comic, on the lower level, you see our core values of our company, our spearheads, what we call it. We have market orientation. Well, that's not a very difficult one. Operational excellence. We want to work in an efficient and effective way. We want to work at the way of working in a data-driven way, and we want new ways of working. And new ways of working is, for example, we want to work more iterative, so more agile kind of things. But data-driven is one of our core values. And to resume that is because we want to know our company ourselves, we want to measure all kinds of things, all kinds of KPIs, but also our customers demand that of us, and our suppliers. Well, in order to become more data-driven, we have to, what we said, we put up a digital journey of Facilicom. It's not only that we say, okay, we're gonna gather data and make sure that we process that data in our, what I call our car wash or our data wash street, or whatever you want to call it. But you need to do a lot of more things. And that starts with what you see in the lower middle of the screen. That starts with architecture. If you don't have an architecture, you have a lot of companies that don't have architecture, or people that put things together or or present your application landscape in a structured way. Then you get point-to-point solutions. So typical specific apps or applications that you use for a specific purpose, and then you have data for that purpose, but only for that purpose. And you cannot integrate that with other purposes and use it for other purposes. So we started with creating an architecture in which we created a landscape, for example, our commercial landscape, which we are working with Salesforce, for example. Everybody think I know Salesforce, our CRM application that generates, of course, lots of data. So that's one of the things that we started with, is creating an architecture in which we created structure and made sure that there is data integration throughout the company. And also, if you have a customer, you see the several labels that we have had, which I just explained. It's very good to share that kind of data with each other. So client data. So don't say, for example, our cleaning business is not offering something to a client or to a customer that our food and beverage department is doing something completely different with that client. They have to know from each other that we have a client, that we are working with the client, what we do with the client, what kind of KPIs we have the client, etc., etc. So you want to share data through your company. Well, we with Facilicom, we have to make a really big journey, because we have an old-fashioned landscape, which I call, and that's what you see on the left lower corner. We have an old, expensive, and scattered IT landscape with a lot of point-to-point solutions. And we are restructuring that landscape, and we are simplifying that landscape and trying to rationalize it. So we want to bring back the number of applications in order to maintain our landscape better and to make it more cost efficient. And we also want to make sure that we use the money in a sensitive and in a wise way. And that's what you see for the insight and grip on costs. I want to spend my money as the CIO of the company more on value creating things than on commodity, of course. So you see a balance, and you see the balance on the left is going downwards. So the cost of commodities is going downwards every day, and the cost of the value applications that we want to create, the value streams that we are supporting, I want to spend my money on that, because that's what the business would like, and that's what the customers would like. Well, one other thing is that, and that's what I already called out for a little bit earlier, is that we have to get more connected with the business. We want to be an enabler. Michel will talk a little bit more on the use cases that we have, but we really want to make sure that we are an enabler. And therefore, we have to become friends with the business. And becoming friends starts with speaking the same language. A lot of colleagues of mine call that the same Esperanto, that you talk to each other. So we understand each other. One of the reasons why you should do that is because IT is in the heart of your primary process. And lots of times, and for us, for example, that's the case, IT is a product or it's a service. You see on the upper side of your screen, you see the building, the construction and facility management. Under digitalization, we have a use case called smart buildings. We do facility management in buildings. For example, the building that you see on our background, which is our own company building. We measure the temperature, we measure the level of humidity, we measure all kinds of things in which we can make sure that the energy management of the company is effective, and you can lower costs in that. For example, we have the building that you see was built in 2006, was one of the most progressive energy saving buildings in the Netherlands. And we introduced the smart building concept with the smart box, which is a little bit of a black box that you connect to all kinds of energy systems in your company. And we were able to save another 60 to 80,000 euros per year on energy management. So that gives you the relevance of our data, and that gives you also the relevance of IT being a product or a service that you can offer. The other reason why business and IT should get more in love with each other is that IT is right into the heart of your company. So it's not only a product or a service, it supports your primary processes, it supports your process to your client and to your suppliers. So you better make sure that you know everything about it and fall in love with it, because it's here. It's been here already a long time, and it's here to stay, and it's going to get more and more integrated into your business model. And I would predict that I am now the CIO of Facilicom. I think my background, by the way, is not purely IT. I've also been a business consultant, and I've also been a commercial director, so a sales director within a company. So I understand the business, and I think, and I will predict that the CIO role is moving more and more straightly into the business. So with my, when the company was appointing me to this role I have, they also said, this is a guy that has more a business background, so he is able to speak your language. And that's one of the main drivers that's going to happen in the future. Okay, and watch a little bit on the time, because I want to give Michelle also room to work on her story. Furthermore, we have in our company, we have portfolio management, which you see there what we say is we have a backlog in all kinds of wishes and requests that we have to really put into a backlog and prioritize. We're working with Power BI and data dashboards and all kinds of things. That's the thing that Michelle is going to elaborate a little bit more on a couple of minutes. We're working towards modern workspace. We want to provide people with the latest software in terms of the workspace. Security, of course, is a very high topic, and security has everything to do with data, you can imagine. And if you read the newspapers, then you see that security is a very hot topic. And you also see that every day there are some data leakages in companies. So security should be one of the main drivers of your companies, and is definitely very high on our agenda to make sure that the data that we use is used in a safe way and also in a very privacy way. So you want to make sure that our employees and our customers are treated in a very safe and privacy way. Furthermore, you see on the right, you see culture and communication. I think one of the main topics within IT and within data is not only that you speak the same language, but also that you get people on a certain level of knowledge. So what we do.
Sorry, Peter, I'm quickly interrupting because we have a few questions in the Q&A box.
Of course.
All right. First question was from Elisa, was focused on the stakeholder buy-in. How do you get and maintain stakeholder buy-in, action, and accountability for the data journey, particularly with the long lead times often associated with data initiatives?
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting question. Two answers on that. The family, we are a family-owned company, which I'd already told. They're not very IT oriented, but they see and they know and they feel that they have to do something with data. And I think the biggest mistake that we could make is create a very big data department within our company, go underwater and make sure that we have all kinds of tools and techniques and employees and data engineers and data scientists, etc. And then resurface, and then the world has changed around us. So what we did is we took the agile way. We said we want to work this out in an iterative way. So Michel basically started the team with only a couple of people and made sure that he was working on use cases, and he will show some use cases a little bit later. But we are building this in an agile way, and in that fashion we create trust with our shareholders, so they see what is happening, they see the value of data. For example, the Power BI dashboards that we have, people are really thrilled with that. So if they see our dashboards, they say, okay, this is really the information that we need. And if you show them bits and pieces and not wait for a couple of years to show the end product, but if you show them bits and pieces in an agile way, so little step by little step, and take them on a journey, you get their buy-in. And the main thing about getting buy-in is getting trust of your shareholders. So our family, which are the shareholders of our company, but also the senior managers, the company and our clients, we work with them in an iterative way. At least we're trying to do it more and more, because sometimes we also work in old-fashioned ways, more old-fashioned ways, I must say. And going on that journey together, you show them what is happening, you show them the value of data, you show them dashboard, you show them analysis, and therefore you can gain their trust and show them the value. I hope that's a good answer on your question so far. Last thing that I will tell about our journey is that we're also building on our capabilities, which you see on the right upper corner. You see the little guy with the halter. There we are working on getting the right profiles, because we outsourced our IT department, so we have only a small department within Facilicom. We have a department, let's say, around 40 people. And the rest of our IT activities is being provided by our suppliers. So we have a couple of suppliers, for example, which I called Salesforce, but we're working now, and you see that in the cloud. We're working with AFAS, which is a Dutch company on HR, on our HR application, for example, and also financial and ERP application. So we're working with cloud application. And that's the last thing probably I should end with, and then hand over to Michel, is that we more and more we embrace a cloud strategy. And data, of course, is very important in the cloud, not only data storage, but also sharing data. And the cloud is a very innovative and safe place where we can store data, but we also can share data. So we are more and more moving towards a cloud-oriented architecture, and that supports us to move towards a more data-driven way of working. So that's a little bit of the story. With data, we really want to add value to not only our own business, but also to our customers and suppliers. So we create an ecosystem with our data. So probably now it's good to share another question before I hand over to Michel.
Yes, definitely. There are some questions coming in that I see. Some questions are being answered throughout the presentation as well, and I think the same will be happening during the presentation of Michel. Yeah, one other question of Pete is how did you cope with change at the start? So people are generally reluctant to change until they start seeing concrete results. So quick wins, but getting that far already requires some buy-in. Yeah.
Well, for me, I've been a business consultant for 10 years within KPMG, and furthermore in my career, I've been self-employed and worked for KPN, for example, our Dutch telecom company. What I always do when I enter a company is do an assessment. So I will talk to people, I will read documents, etc., and make a kind of a photo of the as-is situation. And then I will also ask people, okay, what do you think we're going towards? Which direction should we go to? What kind of solutions do you have? What kind of architecture? All kinds of aspects I will ask in terms to create change. And one of my main drivers to create success in change is by letting it being done by a team. So it's very easy, and when you move on your own, you will go quicker. But if you move with a team, you will come further. And that says everything about buy-in, that says everything about change, that says everything about resistance. So what I will do is I will make a photo, create a need of change. And for example, which I said already, on the left side, the lower left side, you see an old, expensive and scattered IT landscape. IT within Facilicom sometimes is more of an obstacle than a supporting mechanism. So in that term, a lot of people cried out for help to me when I entered the company and I did my assessment round. And I said, please help us to make IT more the supporting mechanism in terms of value and data, etc., because now it sometimes is more of an obstacle. So we were lagging behind, and we are still lagging behind. We are really catching up very fast. And the funny and the nice thing is that we can use modern tools and techniques for that. So we have a smart follower strategy. We don't want to be a front runner as Facilicom. We don't have the opportunity to do that, but we want to be a smart follower and see where the market is going, where the technique is going, where the front runner companies are going towards. And we can use that tools, that mechanisms, we can use that methods of them to make sure that we can take some quantum leaps on our journey. But it all starts with an assessment, creating a need for change, and that you really have to discuss it with the stakeholders in your company and ask them what is really hindering your progress right now in your company. And if you do that, and what we did, for example, is we created this comic and we created plans underneath that. So plans per month, plans per year, that you want to have that plans signed off by your business colleagues. So this year we didn't do that so far, but next year my plan will be that we create our plans, our IT, our business technology plans together with our business colleagues. And I really want to sign them off, because I use a lot of money from our company to invest in new tools, new technique, and new development. And I want the business leaders of my company, and I am in the management of the company. So the CIO role is straight into the top management of the company. But I want my executive colleagues to sign off on our plan, so that they agree with it, that they support it, and they say, this is my plan instead of this is the plan of IT. So that's how I create and we create as a team the support of the business and how we break through resistance. And of course, sometimes you still have resistance. Also, if people don't want to change their way of working, if for example, if we're going to Salesforce, for example, Salesforce requires a certain amount of standardization within your company. Then some people say, okay, this is not how it works for me. Then we sometimes just have to say, okay, but this is how we can do things on an effective way, how we can get more value out of our data. So please make sure that you stick to the standard and not create all kinds of exceptions. I think it's time to hand over to Michel, because otherwise I'm consuming all the time. And I think it's very nice to also go into the tools and techniques that we used within Facilicom to make sure that we provide our colleagues with data and kind of examples that we want to share with you about use cases. Michel.
Yes, Peter, thank you. I'm going to steal away your screen.
Yeah.
So welcome everybody. I hope you can see my screen right now. Is this okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
Peter? Okay.
Yes.
I saw a lot of interesting questions already in the Q&A. I've tried to answer a couple of them during Peter's presentation, and I think most of them will be covered in my part of the presentation, hopefully. Some good questions to ask me from the audience. I have 4 topics today to share. First one is why do you want to be data-driven? What's the reason behind becoming a more data-driven company? Because it's really a buzzword, if you ask me. What framework do we use to clarify our look at being a data-driven company? So you can also communicate that with other stakeholders, how we interpret data-driven as a topic. What are the conditions that you have to meet to become more data-driven? And a couple of data-driven themes, examples in which we give more insights in the main topics that we see within Facilicom for the different business units. And I saw some questions about data governance. I saw some questions about security, some questions about how can you make sure that you make decisions based on data instead of intuition. I think I will cover those different topics in my sheets. So let's go to the next slide. We as Facilicom, there is an internal push to be more data-driven, but there's also external pressure to be more data-driven and also opportunities in the market. to be more data-driven. We have a business model, and we have around 30,000 people that are active in the market and working for us. But we have more or less low margins. We make a margin on the hours that we bill to our customers, but it's a low margin business we're in. And if we are not creative enough and not smart enough, our business model will be under pressure because there's a competitor which has even more lower rates, and then we have an issue. Also, customers demand more digitization. Customers want to have insight in the performance, the way we work for our customers. It's not that they only want to trust us for doing our work in a proper way. They want to have insights. So how many hours did you spend on an activity? What part of the business did you cover for us? Is that within the SLA that we agreed upon? So they want to have insights, and preferably with an online dashboard that they can view themselves. And also, if you want to attract new employees, they want a modern employer. They want to have the same services, the same devices that they use at home. Why have old school technology when you work for your employer and have more new technology in your private environment? Another way is we have a lot of opportunities because we have different business units: cleaning, security, safety, Facilicom solutions, and also a lot in the activity in healthcare domain. Practically everything that happens around a location is something that we can provide. And if you combine all the data around optimizing a location, and you are the only one, more or less, in the Netherlands who can do that, then you have a competitive advantage. So that's an important part. I won't go into all the details around here, but you can imagine that there are opportunities if you look at Facilicom at the customer side and also at our internal side. For example, we can decrease our ecological footprint. We have a lot of people who are mobile, who make, they have a lot of, they drive with their cars, they go to different places. We can do that in a more efficient way, and we can decrease our ecological footprint if we go into details in the way people move, as an example. If you look at our framework, I guess most of the people who are joining this webinar already know this framework. It's from Gartner, but I think it's a nice framework to plot the things we do around data, and of course also the opportunities we see. So we have different forms of analytics. As you all know, the dashboards and the reports that look back are more descriptive, so they show you what happened. For example, a business unit in a cleaning department, what were the results of that department? But if you go further down framework, you can also, based on data, predict what will happen in the deployment of our personnel, because we have a lot of people working in the planning department to plan day by day, week by week, month by month, the deployment of personnel. If you can do that in a more efficient way, it can positively affect your bottom line. Another one is smart building, what also Peter mentioned. We have put technology in place that can fully optimize our energy management within a building. So based on an algorithm, it's called the Blue Bot, the technology itself, the software, will automatically change the energy management in the department, make the building, and make it a more efficient building, but also a more nicer building to work in. All based on data, technology, and algorithms. And last one, we have a new initiative, Food and I, so food and beverage. We can, based on the data we have from our customers, we can, based on the historical behavior, we can predict, even the customer can put in his own preferences, what he wants to have, what food he likes, what beverages he likes to take. We can also minimize the waste in that area and also do an assortment analysis and be sure that the assortment fits the needs of our customers, all based on data. But to become more data-driven, it's not just a technology push and change that we have to go to. It's also necessary to make some adjustments in the culture, in the structure, and of course also in the technology. And I put in some bullet points here. If we look at our culture, we want to be more proactive, not react on figures, but already see what is happening and be proactive. And also, how we call it, embrace failure. It sounds a little bit strange, but learn from each other, and also it's called fail fast. So do a lot of initiatives, and look what works and what doesn't work, stop it, and try to do it another way. Try to continuously improve. We also try to work in a more agile, iterative way, which is also, I know, a buzzword. But in some areas, we still need to work in a more project management, waterfall kind of way. So it's a combination of ways of working that we have introduced within our company. I saw a question about opinion-driven decisions instead of fact-based decisions. Of course, Peter and we are not sitting around every table in which people make decisions, but I have the feeling that based on the dashboards and the reports that we produce and also distribute, more and more people base their decisions on the same data sets that are standardized. And they are also discussed in the monthly business reviews with all the different business units. So we have a standard data set of KPIs which all the different departments use, and they also must clarify if they didn't make their planning and didn't reach their goals. One thing to mention here is the use of pilots in an innovation lab. We have a cloud-based platform built on Azure, Microsoft. We try to focus first on getting the data in and make sure that we can report on it and do advanced analytics. And we are now in the stage in which we also want to use more advanced software, also algorithms to do pilots. For example, absence. Absence is one of the biggest topics within Facilicom. Can we predict high or low absence based on all the data that we store? If you have a company with lots of personnel, tens of thousands of people, you have a huge amount of data, also in absence area, which we try to find trends in the data. We have created a company-wide data platform. I joined the company in August 2019, and in March 2020, Peter, I think you were just in January 2020, we decided to give a go and to build a new data platform in Azure. And I want to show a little bit more how we created that. And I think in 1 year, we made some great progress because we didn't have an old platform that we had to restructure or rebuild. We had data sources, but these data sources were connected to the new data platform. And based on the cloud platform from Azure, we made some great progress. And also, we weren't, how can I say that? We didn't have an old environment that we had to readjust or had to migrate data from old to the new. So that was a big plus for us. For the more techie people in the webinar.
Michel, we still have 15 minutes, so I would also suppose that you go quickly over the technique probably. And then
two slides.
Examples, yeah.
Yes. So what do we have? Maybe for the audience who has some insights in BI and tooling, we started with Microsoft Azure and all kinds of components within Microsoft Azure. And I will make try to create the full picture. So we started with a data factory to get all the data from the source system to the data lake. We had SQL databases created in Azure. We have Azure analysis services for the data marts. So to create tabular models in which Power BI can connect to, and Excel, which you can report on. I'm going through this quite fast. What I came across within a couple of months is we need software that I can also comprehend, and which I can also see what is happening. What is the flow of the data? Is it going from a source system to the data lake, or from the data lake to a historical layer, and then to a data mart? In my opinion, Microsoft Azure doesn't give me an overview in one tool for all these layers. And we use Time Extender to do that for us. And we are serviced by Emergo, it's a Dutch company. Time Extender is also part of the marketplace Microsoft. And that really helped us building fast data platform with Power BI as a front end. Well, this is a sheet in which we try to define the themes to be more data-driven. So to be sure that all the different departments have the same, let's say, the menu in which they can select topics. So if one of the divisions wants to have more insights in booked hours, or the other one in travel, or in the wage budget control, these are the centralized themes that we use within our data platform. This is the final sheet about the way we are organized. We have well, it's kind of a marketing term, the data-driven center of excellence. I would love to have a data-driven center of excellence. I'm kidding. We have a small group within Facilicom, but we have an ecosystem of really excellent suppliers. I'm really happy with the suppliers, which they provide us extensive knowledge in the area of data engineering, data science, also in the area of application and service management, because our platform is serviced and managed by InSpark 24 hours a day. And yeah, it's a really carefree solution for us. But the data leads, the BI leads, and the business people are, of course, from our own company. And we work together with the business to create new use cases and create more insights in their needs. Maybe some time for a question.
Yes, that's all right. Some questions came in the meanwhile. Let me quickly see. Yeah, we'll go over to quite a long question first, which is some of the investments in digital transformation need to be done in facilitating generic fundamental processes like master and reference data management, enterprise data quality, and data governance. These investments can be quite substantial. And then the question is, are you investing in such fundamental processes or systems? And if so, how do you get business support from the plumbing side of data management in order to use high quality data?
Yeah, well, I think the nice thing about Facilicom, and also the nice thing about Peter and myself, Peter has worked in this data area for quite a long time within KPN. I've been in this field for about 20 years now, and we more or less know what is needed to build a secure and carefree data platform. So there is some room within our own level of responsibility to invest in software, but also we try to we do it in a smart way. It's not that we are investing millions of dollars or millions of euros in a data platform. In my view, software that's on the market right now is quite cost effective to build a good and robust data platform. And also, if you look at Azure, it's consumption based, so you can start really small and build your first data layers within Azure. It's not an upfront investment. You can start with a couple of maybe a couple of €1,000 for your consumption, and then you can already make a start.
And to jump in a little bit, what I said earlier, we have to make sure that we talk like really simple language to the business, to explain them everything, because they know that data is valid and valuable to them. But we also have to explain that we have to do more on the plumbing side, which was posed in the question. And in terms of data governance, data quality, the master data, all kind of buzzwords, we have to make sure that we explain what the need is to have those kind of things. Because, for example, if you don't have good data quality, the data and the reports and the net analysis you want to make out of it is not very valuable. And we can show that to them. If you have really good quality of data, then we really make sure that we have good valuable data. And for example, on the governance of data, that is the nice thing of a family company. If we decide something, then everybody is moving towards that direction. So a lot of people say, okay, if the senior management is saying, okay, we understand what we have to do in terms of data management, data quality, data governance, etc. We understand it. Let's move on and make sure that we work on it. And okay, you are the owner of the data, and make sure that you have the master data, and make sure that nobody is creating his or her own data in that area. So that's really an important topic, that you also explain to everybody why you also need the plumbing side of these kind of things. That if you only use data and create dashboards and analysis, that is no use if the data quality is of a poor level.
Yeah. I saw an interesting question, I think, from, if I can, Olivier, if I can do that.
Definitely.
I think it's from Darius. Please share your top 3 challenges or faults. Quite a good question. What it was really challenging for us, to be honest, if you build a platform in the cloud, you have a lot of things to find out. You have to find a way to try to connect to all your different source systems, which is quite a extensive application landscape within Facilicom. We have SAP, we have AFAS, we have Salesforce, we have all kinds of planning applications from Ortec. What do we have? We have a lot of different connectors that we have to use. You have Google Analytics, so that's, if you look at Time Extender solution, they provide us with standard connectors, which really help. Another thing which is really a challenge is identity and access management. So make sure that everyone that is using Power BI as a cloud solution has the right identity and also rights to use data and to access data. And that's also, you have to be able to also make changes in your Azure Active Directory. So from a technical point of view, that was really a challenge. And what's really a challenge is to try to have a common ground for the priorities, because we have a backlog of, I don't know, 110 items of needs that they want, that the business wants us to pick up. You have to have like a governance and a way of working in which you say, okay, you know, these are your needs, but we're going to pick up number 1, 2, 8, and 10 for the next release. So that was also a big challenge.
I also see some questions coming in terms of data quality, especially if I can quickly jump in. Here we got a specific question, which is, to what extent did you define and implement the data quality framework to assure the quality of data being used to base information on?
That's a good question. We don't have a extensive data quality framework, but what really helps is if you look at the solution from Time Extender. Time Extender has its own repository and has its own data flow, which is stored in Time Extender itself. And you can constantly track data coming from A and is presented in Z. It also has its own metadata framework in it. So from a data processing point of view, you can make sure that the data is processed in the proper way. from a quality point of view, it's more that what we see is our issues in the registration of the data in the source system. And we are let's say we are the department which also gives insights in the quality of the data that is stored in the source system. So we are like the first line in which we are saying, okay, if you look at absence, we are missing data because absence has to be registered in this way. So what's going on? Can you help us in trying to make sure that the data is stored in a proper way? So we don't have a data quality framework, as I think you trying to find out, Danny.
Maybe some examples still to show, some dashboards.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I guess people, they have seen a lot of dashboards in their personal life, but let me see just some quick overview. Maybe to go back to this slide, if you look at the semantic model layer, it's the layer which says govern data models, data marts. That's for us is that a very important endpoint within our framework. We create data marts, that, for example, the financial data marts, which stores 2 years of data from every financial aspect within a company for 29 labels within our company. So 80% of our total financial results are in that data mart. The same goes for HRM. So every HRM detail, employees, absence, hours, everything is stored there, historical perspectives. These data marts are given to our key users, and based on those data marts, standard dashboards are created in Power BI, which are also distributed in our Power BI premium environment. So I think good to mention that. So these are just some screenshots about the dashboards that we have provided. This is a dashboard that looks at the absence. It's in Dutch. It's called the ziekmelding and the beta melding. So people are absent. They are going back to work. We have also category. How long are they in a certain absence category? And this is all driven by the department or the business unit or the group you work in. So at the left-hand side, you see a lot of filters, but normally if you access these dashboards, your department is showed right away and the people in your department are presented for you. So example, you don't see any names. This is an overview of the people with their absence within your team. And you can look at the history and also look at the current absence, the absentees. This is planning. So we can look ahead 3 periods. We have a 4-week period. We don't have a month way of working, but we work in periods of 4 weeks. So in this case, in period number 1 in 2020, we see data for periods 2 and 3. So yet to be so it's a future periods, and here we can see how many people are already absent, how many people are planned for extra work. So you can still change your planning based on these data, and you can have a more efficient deployment of your personnel based on these insights. This is the iPad version for Home. Home is our cleaning department. Every team leader who has to manage his cleaners within his team gets the data every Wednesday, end of the day, for the main 5 KPIs. And here he can see what his scores are for his specific department and profit center. And he can make changes and add comments to his KPIs. And this one is more based on the data we provide for our Facilicom Solutions department. They have a lot of orders they have to process. And this is more like a service management dashboard, which you can see how many orders are still in progress, or we are waiting for a response from our customers. And maybe one last thing to share, we actively manage our own Power BI premium environment, also based on a Power BI dashboard in which we can see how many users we have in the cloud, how many have a Power BI Pro license, how many have a team license, and how many groups we have, and also workspaces in which these reports are distributed in, because we now have around 900 users, and you have to have proper user management, otherwise you're consumed in during the day with all kinds of user questions. That's the last slide.
Yeah,
Perfect.
It's about time, I guess.
I think so too. Yeah, we do have some more questions. If so, it could be, if possible, maybe we can pick out a few more questions the last few minutes.
No
because I saw some interesting questions coming by. One of them is, when you appoint a data owner, how do you make it clear what this means for him or her in a daily way of working?
Let me see. Okay, when you appoint a data owner, how do you make it clear what this means for him, her, in the daily way of work? Let me see if I understand the question in the proper way. We have key users that are active within a specific division. I'm not sure if it's the same question that Joris is asking us as a day. We don't have data owners. We have key users within a business, and they're responsible for the proper insights within their business. And they have a responsibility to define the use case and also interact with us if the data is presented in a proper way, and that meet their needs. And most of the time, these key users are working in the finance or their own information management department within those divisions, so it's part of their daily work.
Clear, perfect. Yeah, I think furthermore, most of the questions are being answered throughout the presentation, at least most of them. So we focused on several data quality questions, which covered a few. So I think it will be time to round up actually, and yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, gentlemen. There we go, gentlemen. Thank you for this webinar. Thank you for sharing this. I think it was very interesting. I saw some interesting comments coming by as well. To all attendees, I would like to thank you for joining the webinar. We shared a note in the chat box, which included a few questions to maintain our quality standard of the webinars in the future as well. So please take 2 minutes time to fill this in. Peter, Michelle, thank you so much for your time. It was a good presentation. I see already in the comments, so that's very positive. Thank you, and have a good evening for now.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Perfect. All right.
Bye. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.